All right, this is the 52nd episode of the Runnin My Mouth podcast. I am your very accomplished host, Erin, and allow me to run my mouth for a little bit. So I say very accomplished today because today, as I'm recording this, it's Sunday. I do usually record these on Sundays. I have, and I shall count, I went grocery shopping. I did my hair, which you can't really tell because my chair is black and my hair is also black, so it blends in, but my hair is nice and freshly done today. I deep cleaned my house and I cooked a meal, which all four on a Sunday, that's kind of a lot for me. I'm not even gonna lie, so please clap for that. And it's only, well, okay, it's like 7 o'clock. I was gonna say, it's only 5, but no, where did the last 2 hours go? I don't know, probably from me playing The Sims because I've been playing it a lot recently because I've had a lot of downtime recently. Segue into the first topic of today, which actually, no, I'll talk about this first. So, I got COVID, which is so fun and quirky for me because, fun fact, to my knowledge, I've never had COVID before. And all of a sudden, I get it. And it really throws me on my butt. It's crazy. So, let's see. Last Thursday? Or Thursday before last? Thursday before last. I wake up, totally normal, you know? I feel a scratch in my throat. And I'm thinking it's because, I sleep with a fan next to my bed because I don't have a ceiling fan in my room. And I'm thinking, oh, I just sucked up too much cold air last night and it's making my throat scratchy. Because that has happened on a couple of occasions. I've woken up and my throat will just be either like really dry or like sort of scratchy, but it'll go away by the time I like shower in the morning. And so, I'm doing my normal morning routine and, I have my coffee, which is like one of the last things I do in the morning after, you know, brushing my teeth and showering and putting my clothes on. I have coffee. And I'm like, man, this scratchy throat isn't going away. And I'm like coughing and like this is weird. So, in order to not be coughing all the time, I take some cough drops with me to work. And I'm thinking it's going to be a normal day. I'm thinking that 2 Thursdays ago was going to be a normal day. It was not a normal day. It was a very abnormal day, dear listener and or watcher. Very abnormal, okay? Because at around 10 o'clock, I start feeling weird. Like, I start feeling off. I start feeling like I have a fever coming on. And so initially, I'm like, oh, I probably just have a cold because there has been a person, I won't name names because, that's not going to help anyone, but there's been a person in my workplace, and unfortunately, I don't have my own office, so I am just sort of exposed to all the elements who had been coming in to the office for the past, I would say, at that point, week and a half, actively hacking up a lung, just coughing everywhere. And, we are 5 years past COVID times. Hardly anyone is wearing a mask, especially when they're sick. Like, nobody's wearing masks anymore in my workplace, anyway. You'll see it exceptionally occasionally, so it's like, first of all, if you're sick, stay home. But, of course, PTO is finite, and the way that it works at my job is that everything is the same. We don't get separate sick time versus like personal time. The only thing separate is like holiday time. So, if you are sick and you have to be out of work, that comes out of your PTO. I will say one of the few good things about my last job, and it was very few, 2 good things I can say about my last job. Number 1 is that our sick time and our PTO were separate. And by the time I ended up, although it accrued very slowly, like we got 2 hours every month. So it takes a while to build it up. And so, by the time I left that job, I had like 60 something hours of sick time, which, I mean, let's just do some mathematics. I think I had like 63 divided by 8. It was like 7 days. So, a work week and like 2 days, which after a year and a half to only have that much sick time, That's not a lot. So maybe it was good that it was separated, I think. But the fact that we got barely any, like now I get like 11 hours every month, which is a lot more than before. But anyways, all that to say is our PTO is finite, but at the very least, you could like wear a mask or something. I don't know. I don't want to blame anyone in particular for giving me COVID because, I mean, for the most part, I don't know how long it like incubates, especially with, these new variants that are out there. So I could have gotten it anywhere. I could have gotten it at the COVID movie, which yes. Literally last episode I was talking about the COVID movie and now I'm talking about having COVID for the first time, the only time in 5 years since this pandemic started, which is ironic perhaps, but honestly kind of funny. Like I'm sorry, Ari Aster. I said your COVID movie was bad, which I don't even think I said it was bad. I just said it. Well, I did think it was bad. I thought it was not great. I'm sorry I said your COVID movie was not great. You didn't have to give me COVID. So we're just gonna pretend that it was Ari Aster that gave me COVID and not one of my coworkers. Um, Not like they're ever gonna see this anyways. Either Ari Aster or my coworker. So who knows? Ari Aster might see this. To which I say, I've liked your other movies. It's just this one that I wasn't vibing with for my own personal reasons, which you can see laid out in the previous episode of this podcast. Anyways, we move on. Thursday, 10 o'clock. I'm feeling weird. I'm feeling somewhat feverish, and like I can feel like I'm like getting hot. And like I have a headache too, weirdly. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait until like noon, until like lunchtime, and then I'll go home and I'll take my temperature. And if it's like high, then I'll be like, hey guys, I have to go home. But around like 11:30, I'm like, okay, I can't wait that long. So I go home, which I live very close to my workplace. So this wasn't like an ordeal or anything like that, thankfully. And I take my temperature with a meat thermometer, which is the only thermometer that I have. I don't have a thermometer for people because I don't really get sick that often. Like, genuinely, I don't get sick that often. So, like, I don't have the illness supplies at the ready, nor do I have children who, as we know, are buckets of germs that get sick all of the time. So I don't have the arsenal that was available to me at my parents' house because, two children who get sick all the time. You just have those things around. Um, so I take my temperature, and to my not really surprise, but dismay, it's 100. At 100-degree fever, that ended up going up to 101. Actually, I think it ended up going to 102, which is really high, actually. I did not realize that until I, actually talked to a medical professional, but 102 is pretty high. 101 is pretty high. So, it's, yeah, I don't know how accurate my meat thermometer was, because I did take my temperature at one point between Thursday and Friday, and it was 102. So I'm still here. My brain hasn't turned into soup, but yeah, that was not great. So anyways, my temperature 100. I'm like, man, I gotta go. I left all of my stuff at work, so I have to go back to work to get my stuff. I'm still thinking I have just like a regular cold, because like I feel not great, but not like terrible. But I wasn't about to stay at work, if I had the option to not. So I was like, whatever. I'm taking a half day, and I'm going home. And I took the next day off too, because it was Thursday, and I was like, I didn't really want to work Friday anyways. So it's like, okay, cool, I'll just, sweat this out at home. And so, I tell my supervisors, like, hey, I got 100-degree fever, I need to leave. And thankfully they're chill, and they let me go. Of course, I have to use my PTO, but duh. And so I get home, and, I took like one Advil, because like my head was hurting and I didn't want to overdo it for whatever reason. But I get home, I'm starting to feel like worse. And I'm talking to my mom throughout all of this, and I get cozy and I get in my bed, just trying to, just lay down. And I get like the most intense like chills and aches that I think I've ever had. Like it was not great. Like I was hobbling. I was like hunched over, like trying to walk down my hallway. Like it was bad. And so my mom made a comment being like, make sure it's not COVID. And I very thankfully had a COVID test at the ready that I had bought recently from the last time that I got sick, which was, that had to be months ago at this point, like earlier this year. And thankfully it hadn't expired. And so, I do a little COVID test. I swab my nose and I put it in the thing and I wait the 15 minutes. I'm laying on my couch waiting for it to like develop because I did it in my kitchen. And I'm just like, man, these chills and these aches are like insane. Like all of my joints were hurting, like my back, my lower and my upper back were hurting, my knees were hurting, my wrists were hurting. Like it was crazy. Like wild. So the 15 minutes are up and I go and I look at the test in my kitchen and it is positive. Not a faint line, not even a faint line, like a very obvious positive test. So I'm like, well, shoot, I've got COVID. And, I kind of start freaking out because I'm like, okay, like, what do I do? Where do I go? Like, what medicine do I take? Like, how long am I going to be out of work? Like, I honestly started freaking out, which just isn't superb, but I started freaking out because I was like, I don't want to miss too much work. Because, like, what if I run out of PTO? Which I have like 10 days or more. I have more than that. At the time, I had more than that, like at least 10 days of PTO. And I was like, I don't want to be working like during Thanksgiving and Christmas and I won't be able to go home. Like that was what I was worried about at the time. Not the fact that I had COVID, but the fact that, okay, if this thing like takes a long time, then I won't be able to have a Thanksgiving and a Christmas, like a proper Thanksgiving and Christmas break. Like, okay. I mean, I don't know. It made me freak out. All right. I had my feelings. And so I eventually called my mom. And she, of course, hates it when I cry. Like, I was crying at this point. I was fully bawling at this point. Because, like, I mean, I have COVID, This is, like, serious. This killed, like, a not insignificant portion of our population, like, 5 years ago. Not even 5, like, 4 years ago. So it's like, this is serious. Like, I am freaking out on all fronts, So I'm on the phone with my mom. She tells me to go to urgent care. So that's what I do. And I go to urgent care. It was dark outside. It was a little thundery. It hadn't really started raining yet, but I go to an urgent care and, I check in and I'm sitting there for about an hour. It didn't really feel like there's that many people there, but I was sitting there for an hour and then the rain starts to pick up and then it starts getting really windy to the point where the door of this urgent care is like flying open in the wind and the rain. And it's like, oh, this is kind of crazy, but, I'm at a doctor's office. I would assume I wasn't even thinking about the power going out. Spoilers, the power went out at the urgent care. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, well, all that's going on outside, but I've also got all of this going on inside. So I'm more concerned about the storm that was raging on my insides. And so eventually the power goes out and I've already been waiting here for like an hour before that. And so I'm like, okay, all the lights aren't off. I want to make that clear. All of the lights aren't off. They had like the radio playing somewhere and that was still going. So it's like, okay, for whatever reason, only some of the lights are off in this facility and the radio is still going. So I'm thinking, okay, the power's going to come back on soon-ish. I don't know. I don't know how long I waited. It felt like another 15 minutes before they came out to us and they were like, hey guys, I went to a chain, urgent care. They're like, hey guys, you can either wait here. We don't know when the power's going to be back on. You can either wait here or you can go to another location. And the other location it wasn't far, but it was still like a distance. And, not only that, but it's literally pouring outside. So there's like a lot of traffic on the interstate. So I'm like, okay, well, what time is it at this point? It's like 5 o'clock. 5:30, closer to 6, I think. And I'm like, I need to be seen by somebody like today, you know? So I leave. I go to the second location. There's like, aside from one person who also came from this previous location, and I chose to go to, another one in the chain and not just another urgent care because I already paid my copay at this point. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to pay another however much. I want to be seen by somebody, and I know they're not going to refund me. So like, let me go to this other one in the chain. And so I get there. There's like one other person from the previous location. I guess the others had decided to wait it out, or just decided whatever they had going on with them wasn't that serious, so they just went home. Um, and so I'm seen pretty quickly, and I go in, and they, ask me like, what's wrong? I tell them I tested positive for COVID. So they take my vitals and they give me my little COVID test, and they're like, your heart rate is really high. That's not good. And it's like, yeah, my heart rate goes up when I have a fever. I think that's pretty normal. And also, I was probably pretty stressed out about the situation. I didn't know what my heart rate was. I used to wear Fitbit. It's literally sitting broken on my desk here because the front came off. So I don't have one anymore. I'm not really in any rush to get one, but I'm not really hyper aware of what my heart rate is anymore because I don't have a smartwatch on. But they're like, yeah, it's your heart rate is 150. That's kind of a lot. And aside from the fact that all of my joints hurt and I have a fever, I felt pretty normal. But they were asking me like, oh, where do your parents live? Do you have family? Like, do you have somebody we can call? And when they start saying that, then I start to freak out all over again because I'm like, what do you mean? And eventually they tell me, they give me my COVID test and then they give me some Tylenol to take. Because keep in mind, I've only taken one Advil at this point. I think they gave me like some extra strength Tylenol to take. And they're like, yeah, if we can't get your heart rate below 150, you're going to have to go to the ER. And I'm like, I don't want to go to the emergency room. Like, I really don't want to go to the emergency room. Like, I felt fine. And I know feeling fine does not mean that you're actually fine, but like, I felt fine. I just wanted, them to prescribe me whatever COVID medication they're going to prescribe me. And then I can just, buy some Tylenol and then take it home and then take that and then be okay. But they're like, and obviously, I trust medical professionals, but I was very averse to going to the ER because, number one, I knew that if I went, first of all, money. It was going to cost a lot of money to go to the ER. And I have health insurance, but I don't know if that, like, even covers ER visits, So I did not want, at the time, this was before the first of the month, so I had like just enough money to pay my rent. I'm still in kind of a weird in between after moving where I'm still kind of trying to wait for my finances to level out. On top of the fact that everything is just expensive these days, so it's like I kind of feel like I never have any money. Which I know literally last episode I bought a CD live, but God forbid I spend $18 on a compact disc versus however many hundreds or thousands it was going to cost going to the emergency room, okay? And thankfully, I live in an area where, I don't have to travel a prolonged distance to go to a hospital with, a decent emergency department, so that's good. But I still didn't want to go there because I didn't want to be waiting for however long. That was another thing. Because I felt like if I was going to go to the ER, I'm not like physically dying. I'm not bleeding out. So it's going to take them a while for them to get to me. So I'm probably going to be waiting there for ages when all I want to do is take whatever medicine that I need to take and like go to bed in my own house. That's all I wanted to do. But they're like, yeah, your heart rate's kind of high. And we don't really want to just kind of send you out there. Like, do you have any family we can call? And of course, I tell them, because they ask me, where do your parents live? And I'm like, well, my mom lives in Alabama and my dad lives in California. So they're kind of no help right now. I do have family in the area. Like, I had people that I could call. But, I wasn't really trying to do that, if I'm being honest. Like, I did not, I mean, okay, obviously my heart rate is like 150, but I didn't really want to, I didn't want to go to the ER. Bottom line, I didn't want to go to the ER. I mean, it's not that I don't like being at the doctor's office. I mean, I just didn't want to go to the ER. Like, I was really trying to avoid that. And then, then them asking me like, "Oh, do you have someone we can call? Do you have family around? Where do your parents live? We're gonna have to send you to the ER." I start freaking out all over again. So yeah, I'm crying in the exam room of this urgent care in Ridgeland, just like, what the heck is going on? Like, am I going to die? Like, I don't know. They kind of, making faces like I am. They look very concerned. Like the doctor that saw me and the nurse lady that was also, assisting, they both looked and sounded concerned. So that was also why I was kind of freaking out. So I'm like, what? I don't know, man. Just like, I don't know. And so eventually they tell me like, "Oh, we want to do an EKG on you, just to make sure everything was okay with your heart." And so I'm like, an EKG? I've never had one of those done on me. I mean, I sort of know what it is. It's, they put the stickers on you and they like have the thingy that prints out like your heartbeat or whatever. And so they do that. And actually, I don't think I have that. I don't know where it went. I think they said they were going to give it to me, but then they didn't. Or maybe I have it and it's like in my car. That's not important. Either way, the EKG was normal aside from the fact that my heart rate was like 150. And so like, okay, well, just kind of hang out here. Hopefully the Tylenol will kick in, and if not, then I guess you gotta go to the ER. And it's like, this is crazy. I am fully in freaked out mode right now. Like, I am open mouth sobbing, in this exam room. Like, I don't know what's gonna go on, like, what's gonna happen. And as I'm getting the EKG done, I'm trying to like calm down because obviously me crying is going to increase my heart rate. So I'm trying to like calm down, but also I'm like, got my shirt up and this lady is putting the stickers on me to do an EKG, and I'm like, what the heck is about to happen? What is my next 12 hours about to look like? Am I gonna be in a hospital room like soon? And then what made me freak out even more is that, the lady doing my EKG, seeing that I am open mouth sobbing, even though I have a mask on, she like holds my hand and tells me it's gonna be okay, and that makes me freak out even worse. So it's like, because I'm here all alone, I'm in this urgent care by myself, and this isn't, I mean, that's not super revolutionary. I do like 90% of like my life by myself these days anyways. As an adult, I do like 90% of my life by myself, so it's not, unprecedented that I'm here by myself. But like, I felt like really alone in that moment. I was like, I don't know what's about to happen. Am I gonna have to go to the ER? Are they gonna tell me that I'm gonna like die in the next 30 minutes? Like, what's going on? So I'm freaking out. In between these events, by the way, I forgot to mention they did my COVID test, but it came back negative, which was strange. But the doctor lady that was attending, I guess, said that I was presenting like pretty much every COVID patient that, they had seen in the last whenever. So they were going to still, you know, say that I had it because I had my positive test. I tested positive at home and I had all the symptoms. So it's like, yeah, you have it. And so, after that, after they get my EKG results and, they tell me everything is normal, and they tell me, we still have to wait for your heart rate to go down. They start talking to me about my medication options because obviously I have COVID. I need to actually take something for it that's going to stop the COVID from COVIDing. An antiviral. I would need to take an antiviral. And the way my mom described it, because she got COVID like a few months ago, somewhat recently, but also not that recently, is that they gave her some kind of shot and then some kind of something to prevent her from like getting a yeast infection or something. I don't know. But she was not like taking any pills or anything like that. It was like a shot and some other medication of some sort. I kind of forgot. She told me what she, got, but I have since forgotten. I did just say my brain did not turn to soup, but also keep in mind, I was already forgetting things before I got COVID. And you all know that if you are regular watchers of the podcast, because you see it happening every single episode. Anyway, They were like, okay, so your heart's normal-ish. It's beating really fast, but aside from that, everything is fine, I guess. So your medication they're gonna have to take is Paxlovid, which I already knew what Paxlovid was because I live in the United States and I watch network television and I get advertisements for Paxlovid like all the time. So, I mean, did I really need to know what it was previous to now? Not really, but I did. So I was already mildly familiar with it. It's, the COVID medication made by the people who also make the vaccine. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Give me the Paxlovid, doctor. Um, and she was saying, like, it's going to be about $1,500. $1,500 for this medication that if I don't take, I mean, I don't think I was gonna like die, but I was probably gonna be sick for a lot longer than I was if I did not take it. $1,500 for this medication that I needed, okay, and like I have insurance, but for whatever reason, that was not factored into the conversation. So it's like, what is the point of me having insurance if you guys aren't gonna is it not covered by insurance? Like, is COVID treatment not covered by this insurance that I have for my dad who has like a government job? Like, what's going on? And so they tell me like, oh yeah, it's $1,500, but like, they have a coupon. They have a coupon for it on manufacturer's website, and with that, it should be free. Maybe if you qualify for it. So, I'm freaking out about the fact that I might be out of pocket $1,500 when I, at the time, only had about enough to pay my rent, like in the next week. So it's like, okay, well, I mean, thankfully, or not thankfully, I mean, I feel ambivalent about it, but I have a credit card and it has a pretty high credit limit. I think it has a pretty high credit limit. So it's like, okay, well, worst case scenario, I'm just going to have to put this on a credit card because otherwise I'm just going to be sick for a long time and I don't want that to happen. But my insurance was not taken into account for some reason. I don't know. So I get the little coupon, which by the way, the doctor that treated me was a G for telling me this. But if you ever get COVID, okay, and you are prescribed Paxlovid and you don't have insurance, which I didn't enter my insurance information when I went and got this coupon. So perhaps you don't have insurance or they're not, I don't know, but it's called Paxess. But basically, hold on, I'm gonna look it up. Yeah, it's called Paxess. So you go on the Paxlovid website, and then it's like a blue, I could share my screen right now, but I don't feel like it. It's a blue thingy. Down here it says save on Paxlovid, eligibility required. I don't know what the eligibility is. Like, what are the requirements? Because like I'm not on Medicare or Medicaid, I'm not uninsured, I'm not low income or anything like that, but I was still able to use this coupon to not have to pay. Thank God I did not have to pay for my meds because that would have sucked. I just did the regular enrollment. I don't know how many times you can use this. I don't know if it's like a one-time thing or what. Let's see, have commercial insurance, pay as little as $0 for your Paxlovid. Which, again, I don't know why this just isn't. Maybe it's because I went to an urgent care. I don't know, that still doesn't make sense. I mean, I didn't, fill out any insurance information when I went to this urgent care. I will say that. But I had been to this chain previously in 2020 when I thought I had been exposed to COVID, which we're going to get to that. Because that, I feel like is relevant. So I don't really know. Like, I didn't input any insurance information. Basically, I went on this website, I filled out this form, and I got like a barcode or something like that, and it made it so that I did not have to pay for my medication, which is great. But I hate that even the manufacturer's like, yeah, this is really so expensive, here's a coupon. Like, what? That's so... Listen, I don't want to say anything that will get me flagged by a 3-letter agency, but I'll leave it at that. I will leave it at that. Anyway, eventually, my heart rate goes down. it goes down to like 130 something, which is still pretty high, but not like go to the ER levels, because I mean, I don't know why my heart rate was high, but the doctor made a comment because again, I had been to this chain before back in 2020 when I thought I had been exposed to this. They said, when they took my vitals then, which I wasn't sick at that time, but we're going to get there. My heart rate was high then. So I guess I just have a high resting heart rate. Don't know what that means. Don't want to look into it. You know, doctors, they're so expensive, and I just, maybe there is something there. I don't know. Because I'm not going to see a doctor even if I really need to. Like, for instance, I have had just, since I've been sick, it's gotten worse. But I've just had this, like, crazy, like, stopped up feeling in my right ear. And this has been going on for months. And I just don't know, like, is it serious enough to see a doctor? Like, I went to Walmart today, part of my grocery shopping. That made me feel so accomplished. I bought these drops that are supposed to, like, dissolve earwax, and it's like thing that flushes out your ear. And I did the drops, and I let them, marinate for however long they're supposed to marinate. And I flushed out my ear, and it kind of didn't do anything. In fact, after I flushed out my ear, I felt dizzy, which is crazy. Like, probably not going to do that again. Don't want to, mess with my already sensitive vestibular system. So, anywho, back to having COVID. They're like, all right, you can leave. Goodbye. And I think I was there like past closing, but because I ended up leaving around 7-ish. But, because actually, I don't think that's true. Hold on. What is the name of this place that I went to? Here. What are their hours of operation? Because I wonder, because I was like the only person there. Let's see, I went on a Thursday. It wasn't 8 o'clock when I left, but it was very near closing time. They were like, they were medical professionals. I'll say that. They did all the things that I needed them to do, so that's great for them. Really, I mean, honestly, great experience, despite the fact that, I thought I was going to have to go to the ER, but that wasn't really their fault. That was my heart's fault, Can't really blame them for that. In fact, I mean, they were just doing their due diligence in that case. But eventually, it's like 7, and I'm just hoping that the pharmacy is still open. Thankfully it was, and there wasn't like a big line or anything like that. And so honestly at this point I was like, when I walk out of this urgent care, is like a piano or an anvil gonna fall on me? Because I feel like I'm just like running out of luck today. This feels very, very Acme slapstick, that was what I was feeling at the time. And so, she gives me, the doctor lady gives me like some Tylenol, because I don't have Tylenol. I just take Advil, which I don't really have a reason for doing that. That's just what I do. I don't know. So she gave me some Tylenol to take for my Advil, like around the clock. And I go to the pharmacy, I pick up my meds. It's free, thank God. And I get back here and I'm just defeated. Like, I wanted nothing more than to take whatever this medicine was and like go to bed, because like I had a day, an insane day, which I mean, it's kind of crazy because my mom was low-key criticizing me for crying about being sick potentially for a long time earlier in the day, but later she was like, yeah, you went through a lot. It's like, yeah, I did go through a lot, actually. Thank you for recognizing that. So, that was a couple Thursdays ago, kind of crazy, and I will say, Paxlovid, it did work. It did work. The crazy thing about it, though, is that night, I don't know what was going on. I wasn't even drinking that much water. I probably should have drank more water than I did, just like in general, but also in that instance. But for whatever reason, like, I was getting up, I swear it felt like every hour and a half to use the bathroom. Like, I was peeing nonstop, and I was like, I could not have ingested this many fluids to be peeing this much in the middle of the night. That was bizarre. Don't know what that was all about. I don't think that was a side effect of the medication. I think it was a side effect of being sick. but also it literally only happened that night. So like I don't know. It was strange. It was odd mixed strange. Um so, now I've got the medicine. I'm taking the medicine, and my last dose for it was like this Tuesday or something like that. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. The days passed strangely during all of that because, yeah, I was just out of it for like a while. Like Thursday went by in a strange manner, of course, and then Friday was like, did Friday even happen? I don't know. I wasn't there for it. I can barely remember Friday aside from, being sick. And I had hardly any food in the house too, so I had to order DoorDash, which I have been stopping because it's been burning a hole in my wallet. But I quite literally could not go anywhere because of the whole, having COVID thing and also just not feeling great. Like I said, all of my joints hurt. Like my head didn't hurt anymore, which is great. But I swear my wrists and my knees and like my back, but not my ankles. Weirdly, not my ankles, but like everything else, every other locomotive joint, not my elbows either, but my wrists. Like that's so weird. My wrists and my knees and my upper and lower back just hurting. Like all I could do is just like lay in bed and like sweat a lot, you know? Um, but one of the crazy things about Paxlovid is, and I mean, the lady told me that this is gonna happen, so like I sort of expected it, but the taste. Like I'm not talking about the taste of the pills. Like I don't know what the pills taste like because I always take pills with like a bunch of liquid anyways, so like they never touch my tongue. But it's not even an aftertaste. It's just like every time I exhaled, it was just like I had been drinking cigarette juice. That's the only way that I can describe it. Like if you made a tea out of smoked cigarettes and you drank that, that is what the after effect of taking Paxlovid tasted like. It was so nasty. Oh, it was awful. Like I had to be sipping on something like at all times. I had to take this medication for like 5 days. So it was like that for 5 days. Like of course, if I were to pick, I would rather have the Paxlovid taste, the essence of Paxlovid versus having COVID. So like, yeah, but it's still really bad. Just nasty. Thankfully it didn't make me nauseated, but it was just nasty, like just bitter and just like it tasted like cigarette tea. That's the only way that I can describe it. It was so bad, but all in all, I feel a lot better now. I'm still, I don't know, I feel like I have like remnants of a cough, maybe like a little bit of phlegm. And I feel like, I don't know, my voice is not back to 100, but that Thursday, that was a very rough 12 hours that I had from 8 in the morning to 8 at night, which is, I think, when I eventually ended up being able to make it home. Um, Not great. It was like actually very stressful. Like I think I thought I was gonna die. Like real talk, I feel like, that was how serious it was feeling, which is why I was open mouth sobbing in urgent care. So not a great 12 hours to have. And then, for most of Friday, I was still like feverish and not feeling great and just like hot, but also having chills and just like all of that. But honestly, after Friday, like Saturday, I felt fine. Like Saturday, I like cleaned. I didn't have any food, so of course I had to order again. But I was upright. Like Friday, I could not even just like sit at my desk and like play The Sims. Like that was how bad it was. Like I had to be horizontal because otherwise I was just suffering. So yeah, that was really bad. But as I've intimated earlier, that was not my only run-in with COVID. Um, so I had this. I don't want to call it an incident. I'll call it an instance. I had this instance when I was a senior in school. In fact, I talked about this. Like, I'm fairly sure. Like, I know I've talked about this on my main channel. I just don't know what the name of the video is, or if it was like spread across like 2 different videos or what. But obviously, this is gonna be from 5 years ago. I think it was. Okay, so the title of the video on my main channel was "Things Are Going Well Until They Weren't, and the School Isn't Doing Anything." And this is where I talk about at the time, and this is pre-vaccine. So keep all of this in mind. People are still very much getting very, very sick and dying. Being put on ventilators. Like, this isn't the flu. This is like dire at this point. And just to give a little refresher, because apparently a lot of people have memory hold the year 2020, which if I could do that, I would, but alas, I am cursed with the curse of remembering. But March is when lockdown happened. I think around April, because, we had our spring break extended by a week, and then we didn't come back. We had all of our classes switched to virtual. And then eventually they were like, sometime in April, they were like, if you want to go home, go home. We're not going to make you stay here. And so COVID summer, honestly, this is awful to say, but the summer of 2020, I was kind of vibing. I'm not even going to lie. It was very uncertain, but I wasn't like super isolated because, keep in mind, I was living back home at the time. I was with my mom and my dog. So I was like, I was kind of okay, socially anyways. And, during this time, I had a friendship that was somewhat strong. So it's like, things could have been a lot worse summer of 2020, and they weren't. And I'm grateful that they were not. Because being here, just kind of like by myself, like sweating out COVID just alone, really let me know that I could not do lockdown by myself like now. Like, if there were an instance where things just like popped off again and we just like had to stay home, like, I would probably go insane. I'm not even gonna lie. My mental health would deteriorate to a point where it's like not good. Anyway, and I was just here for 4 days. 4.5 days. I had a long-ish weekend because I went right back to work on Monday because that's when they cleared me to go back. And also I was like feeling better. So, but so the fall semester of that wasn't my final year. That was my junior year, actually. The fall semester of my junior year? No, that was my last semester. My final semester that year, because I graduated in 2020. How could I forget? My final semester was that fall semester. And so it's kind of uncertain, like, are we going to go back? Like, what are the regulations going to look like, essentially? And so, at Belhaven, they had, the whole, we're still going to come back, but, you have to wear a mask, and, in the classrooms, you have to have like a space in between you, even though that wasn't really 6 feet, because that was the regulation at the time, to be 6 feet apart. So we did that, and it's like, it sort of worked. And it helped that, my classes, especially my ones that I was taking for my major, were small anyways. But I had some that were a bit larger, so it's like, the best thing that happened, though, is we did not have to go to chapel anymore. That was fantastic. Hate chapel with my whole heart, with my whole chest. I hated it. And so previous to this video, I made a video called School Starts Soon, and I have mixed feelings about, the fact that the semester is going to start and, things are still kind of uncertain with this whole COVID thing. Because again, I don't know how much I can stress this, but this was pre-vaccine. People were still getting very, very sick and dying by the busload, basically, and, being put on ventilators and stuff like that. And so at this time, this is my final semester, I'm getting to the point where I'm taking directing, the class directing. So, the whole point of directing is to direct a film. And so, I had written the script, maybe the previous semester or something like that. And, the changes were made and it was getting time to like actually shoot it. And so the location that we're going to use to shoot it was going to be my friend slash ex podcast co host house at the time. And, that was good for me because I didn't really know anyone who lived off campus at the time. I certainly didn't live off campus at the time. And I needed a very, I needed a house that looked like it had just been moved in. And so, I chose his because, his house looked like he had just moved in it because, he did just move in it. So it was kind of perfect. It didn't have a whole lot of furniture. It didn't look very lived in. And it was going to be perfect for the location that I needed. And, things were almost working out. My film professor was like stressing me the heck out about all of it because that's just what he did. So that wasn't exactly, you know, unprecedented or anything like that. But I was still, despite all that, I was still determined to make this freaking film. And so it was around October. It was, I want to say, the week before we're supposed to shoot it. And I had already had all these challenges when it came to shooting my film, which I detail in the video. What I learned, parentheses, trying to, parentheses, make a short film. I was having trouble finding an actress because the lead that I wanted, I didn't really have anyone in mind, but the main character in the film was a Black woman. And for whatever reason, it was just so exceptionally hard to find a Black woman, because what we were doing at the time, and I do sincerely hope they're not doing this anymore, because if they are severely limiting themselves. But our actors not exclusively, but pretty much exclusively came from Belhaven's theater department, which was overwhelmingly white at the time. Has it changed? God, I hope so. I sure do hope so. But probably hasn't, if we're being honest. So, aside from just, the college being small and the theater program being small, we use like the same, I want to say like not even five, like 4 actors in like a bunch of the films that we did. And there would be times where we would pick people that were not in the theater program, but they still went to the school to be actors. But, the theater program at the time, and I'll never forget this for as long as I live because it was just so ridiculous, but they had 3 Black actresses, and one of them was biracial. And, not knocking on biracial people, but, I wanted an actress that read as Black to be my lead. And so it's down to 2, and one of them couldn't do it for whatever reason. And so I think in the end I did have to go with the biracial actress, but, the film never ended up getting shot because my ex-friend / ex-podcast co-host, and this was so weird to me. Like, this was so perplexing to me. Like, I was so mad about this. I didn't really let it on because, I was of the belief that, our friendship could move past this, but I was like, why on earth would you do this? So my ex-podcast co-host / ex-friend went to a Halloween party with the person that lived, like, above them. And it was so crazy to me because, like, me and my friend, we were very alike. I didn't really like going to parties. He didn't really like going to parties either. But somehow, he got cajoled into doing it. Maybe by his girlfriend. I don't really know whose idea this was. But it was a very stupid idea because the host of the party ended up getting very sick. And after they had gone to that party, now I was, first of all, I was just a homebody anyway, so I was just like staying inside. But when I would hang out with people, it really would just be me and my friend, and occasionally his girlfriend if she was there. So it's like, it's not like I was like out here in these streets. I felt like I was being responsible. I wasn't going to parties. I wasn't being invited to parties, but I wasn't going to them either because, hello, people are dying by the busload. So it's like, why would I do that? Why would I put myself in that position? And so after this party, like a couple days later, me and my friend hang out because, that's what we do. Very normal. And so eventually I'm laying in bed in my dorm room and I get a text from my ex-friend / ex-podcast co-host saying like, hey, I got a quarantine for 2 weeks because, I went to that party and the host ended up getting sick. And he's like pretty sick. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, well, there goes my shooting location, the only shooting location I had. I didn't have any backups, so it's like, well, now I have to find another shooting location. But then I realized, oh, wait a minute. I had hung out with you after doing that. So, like, now I'm exposed. And so now I start freaking out real, real bad. Because, again, I don't know how much I can stress this. For the people that memory hold 2020, like, I really need you to understand that in that moment, I genuinely thought I had a very high chance of death, of just dying at age 20. Okay, well, 21 at that point, just like kicking the bucket. Because, not only had I been exposed to COVID, but I'm also a Black person, and Black people were dying at higher rates at the time. So it's like, oh, like I'm about to be buried in the dirt, hopefully cremated, but I don't think I told my parents my death plan at this point. Um, Unrelated to COVID, but I have told my parents my death plan because I have one. I want to be cremated. Well, not everybody needs to know, but I do want to be cremated. So it's like, oh, what the heck? So I start freaking out, of course, crying real bad. I call my mom because, of course, I did, and she tells me to go to urgent care because it's like, well, at this point, they didn't have at-home tests either. So in order to be tested for COVID, you had to go to, a doctor's office or an urgent care. I can't remember if they had the drive-through testing places at this point, but when I got this text, it was kind of late at night. So the only option I had was to go to urgent care. Could not go to the ER because, of course, at this time, the ERs were inundated with people with COVID. And if I didn't have it, which I didn't have it at the time, I didn't want to expose myself to it. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to urgent care. And I went to the same chain that I went to 2 Thursdays ago. And so, I am literally crying while driving down the interstate, bawling, open mouth sobbing behind my steering wheel, driving down the interstate to go to this urgent care to find out whether or not I'm going to die. And thankfully for me, my test was negative. But, all that to say, that is when they, I guess, saw that I had a, resting heart rate of like 118 at the time, and that was like 5 years ago. So yeah, I guess I have a high resting heart rate, or I don't know, maybe my heart rate spikes when I'm stressed or upset. Maybe I have just a little bit of anxiety, because that's what the nurse lady asked me, like, oh, are you on anxiety medication? I was like, no. Does it make your heart rate go up? She was like, only when you don't take it. And I was like, okay. Like, do I have anxiety? I feel okay, real talk, I feel like if I do have anxiety, it's to a level where it's not really, I feel like I don't really need to do anything about it, which is crazy to think about because, like, I'm essentially saying, yes, I do think I have it, but, like, also at the same time, not enough to, get on friggin' Xanax or whatever they prescribe you for anxiety. Like, it's there, but it's not, like, ruining my life or anything like that, so I think we're chilling for now. Will it get worse? I don't know. Perhaps I do have medical anxiety. I feel like most people do, though. I feel like if you're rational and you feel like, oh, something might be wrong with me, like I feel bad and something is wrong with me, like you're gonna be anxious, right? Right? I'm not alone in that. I don't think. So, yeah. Those are my COVID chronicles. Believe it or not, I have other things to talk about, even though it's been an hour. I've been talking about this for 53 minutes. That's crazy. Well, it's a good thing that the rest of these topics don't really require much time. I don't think this episode is going to be 2 hours again, but before I do that, because I haven't been to any shows because I got sick, I will read you my calendar of upcoming shows. I'm trying to figure out what else is on here. Okay. Yeah, these aren't like super deep to get into, so on the 13th, which is the day that this comes out, we have Clementine, Weak Hearts, and Cookie Woo at Urban Foxes at 7 o'clock. And then, which I don't think I've talked about this really at all, mostly because there really hasn't been anything to talk about, but there is a new group booking shows here in Jackson called No Posers, No Problem, and they sort of popped up randomly and didn't really, explain who they were, what they were doing, and it caused, honestly, all of that was so stupid, but, it caused, like, a thing to happen, which all of that could have been avoided with like a story post or like text on Black Instagram posts, but whatever. Social media is hard for some people, I guess. But anyways, they are a group um organizing, I think maybe exclusively charity shows, charity hardcore shows specifically, which I mean, this isn't really a hardcore show, to be completely honest. Either way, putting on charity hardcore shows here in Jackson. They're called No Posers, No Problem. And their first one is this Friday at Howlin' Mouse with Store 24, which is a band from Jackson, Beneath the Kudzu from Vicksburg, Face Rot from Jackson, Shangri-La from somewhere in Mississippi, but I don't know where. I don't know if I ever knew, or maybe I forgot. Anyways, that's at Howlin' Mouse, and that is at 7 o'clock. And then next week, on the 20th, we have Attack Dog, Surf Wax, Holy Vision, and Mostly Satire at the End of All Music in Jackson, and that's at 7 o'clock. And then, for the next one that I have on my calendar, which I'm wondering if I'm missing, I think I am missing something. I know that Smokies has a show coming up. Oh, man. But I don't have it on my calendar because I'm silly. And also a lot of this was announced when I was sick. So I was like, I did not have the bandwidth to put it on anything. Hold on, let me see. Because I don't want to leave it out. Okay. We have Yacht Club. Let me see. Yes, Yacht Club and Smokies at Dueling Hall. When is this? The 13th? That's also on Wednesday. Okay. What is the time? It does not say. Hold on, does it say it in the... It does not. Am I blind? No. Let me see. Yeah, no, there's no time on here. It's at Dueling Hall on the 13th, which is Wednesday, the day that this comes out. And that is all I have. There's something else coming up. Oh, I know what I wanted to mention. So the Akashic 45s, which I've mentioned a couple of times on this here podcast, they are having an album release on September 20th. So we have well over a month to go. Featuring Eyes Like Yours at Urban Foxes at 6 o'clock. And that is that. Those are the shows that I have coming up. Oh, wait, did I say this one? No. Shadowboxing, Headcanon, and Syntasia on Saturday, August 30th at Howlin' Mouse at 7. Did I say that one? Well, either way, I said it again. Those are the shows that are coming up. Lots of good things going on here in Jackson. So that is that, and I talked about that. I feel like there's another thing I wanted to talk about, music-related, local music-related, but I cannot, for the life of me, remember it. I didn't write it down, so... Oh, but I do have musical topics. So, okay. Recently, and I don't have much to say about this because I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I did not listen to the full album, but let me not get ahead of myself. Attack Attack. I am a fan of Attack Attack. Literally over here, I have the 10th anniversary edition of Someday Came Suddenly on vinyl, hanging up on my wall. It's on the vinyl wall, so you know it's legit. I have been a huge fan of Attack Attack since I was in high school, but of course, by the time I started listening to them, I think they had like just either broken up, gone on hiatus. I think broken up, we can say, because This Means War came out in 2012. So by the time I was listening to them, I think they'd already like kicked the bucket. But I love Someday Came Suddenly. I love Self-Titled. This Means War, I listened to it a couple of times, but there's some good tracks on there. So, I would call myself an Attack Attack enjoyer. So, I was going to say Imagine My Surprise, but I wasn't surprised by this, like, at all, because they've been releasing singles for a while. Like, for a while. Like, a few years. Let's see. When did this come out? 2020! All My Life came out in 2020. That's crazy. That's a while ago. Is that... Okay, no. There's an EP that it's on from 2021. So, yeah, they've been back for a while now, but I think most people are realizing that this is Attack Attack in name only. We have one founding member and like a bunch of new people, and really that's not bad. Like having one of the founding members resurrecting something isn't inherently bad, but and I'm not even saying their new music is bad. It's just not for me. If we're being completely honest, it's just not for me. It's not it's also not really reminiscent of, Attack Attack, because I felt like, you can very clearly see a sound progression because you have the very electronic core, Someday Came Suddenly, very MySpace, very 2008, very of its time. And then you have Self-Titled, which I still feel like is sort of in that vein, but it feels like the sound has matured a little bit, if I may be so bold as to say. And then This Means War, which I think kind of went into that, very standard, like early 2010s, like metalcore sound, which, being that I am a metalcore fan, which I don't know if most people know this, like I am truly like a metalcore head. Like that is where I got my start. So I have a very large place in my heart for metalcore. So, being that it is sort of standard early 2010s metalcore sound, it's the stuff that I like. So, there is a progression there. Um, and I feel like, some of their newer stuff, specifically talking about, which I don't know, actually, I don't know about that, but some of, the stuff that they put out now, and maybe I have just gone past the sound, like I'm just not into it anymore, perhaps. But it does feel like kind of, I don't know, uninspired metalcore. So it's like, yeah, you know, with this new album, they have, I don't know, something just really chapped my butt about it that they called it Attack Attack 2, so like self-titled 2. So you would think, being that this is this big resurrection of this once, this huge Warp Tour MySpace era band, you think it's gonna be reminiscent of their older material. Why would you think that? I mean, if you hadn't heard any of their new stuff that they put out since 2012, then maybe you would think that. But, I knew better. I knew this wasn't like gonna sound like the Attack Attack that I know. So it's like, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't listen to the full album. I was gonna give it the old college try. I was really gonna give it the old college try, but I made it to track 2 and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I made it to Dance, track 2 out of 11. And honestly, I've been into, because I read the Lamb Goat review, right? That kind of eviscerated it. I have liked music that has had more appalling and uninspired lyrics. I mean, I willingly listened to We Will All Evolve, which famously has the lyric, "You're just a symphony made up of violins that don't make a sound." What does that mean? Hey, Diva, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. And I love We Will All Evolve. Before Our Last Night became a cover band. Like, yeah, love that album. But, like, the lyrics are deeply uninspired. That's not what gets me. It's just, I don't know, to call it self-titled 2, I don't know, especially considering of their 3 original albums, self-titled is probably my favorite. I don't know. It just felt like, I don't want to say it because this is like cringe, but it felt like a slap in the face, to call it self-titled 2. And it's like, yeah, the original lineup is never going to get back together because one of them is a chomo, unfortunately. So, it's not like that is what I want. I don't want like the original lineup. Everyone else is like doing other things. Caleb Shomo is, doing Beartooth. And, I like some Beartooth tracks. I saw them live. I was like, yeah, this is fun. The other one, I forgot his name, but Bill Murray, that's doing its thing. So it's like, that's also, I don't know, I wasn't really super into that either. It's not strictly meme music, but the titles are memey. So it's like, it's not really super my thing, but it is popular, so it's like, okay, like Attack Attack has splintered off into things, there was of Mice and Men, but of course we all know, like I said, one of the former members is unfortunately a chomo, so it's like we don't really need that back. But I still listen to, of Mice and Men self-titled. That holds a special place in my heart. So like the offshoots of, Attack Attack are like good, but it's like I don't know. I feel like we need to leave her back in the 2010s. I'm sorry. I wish they would put out some like vintage logo merch. In fact, I'm gonna see what they have. If they have like vintage logo merch, then I might buy it. But I just want the Cooper Black logo. The classic Cooper Black logo. That's all I want. I mean, I'm not gonna buy it right now because like no, but no, they just have like a bunch of like crapcore joke stuff. Nothing with the. I wonder if they like don't. Okay, I don't know. I don't even know what I was about to say. I was gonna say like, oh, I wonder if they like lost the rights to use the old logo or something like that. But it is quite literally just Cooper Black. Like that is the font. There wasn't any like super in-depth graphic design that went into making the original logo, but unfortunately it looks like they don't have any. There's still some on Rise Records. You got, oh yeah, this is like, ooh, do I want to buy, I'm not buying another CD on, but they are selling self-titled CDs and I do kind of want one. Oh, okay, I'm just gonna bookmark it. It's only $11. I'm gonna buy it later. Not right now, but I am expanding my CD collection and I wouldn't mind having a self-titled CD. Anywho, all of that aside. Dang, I do really, okay. Hush. I'm telling myself to hush. Yeah. Am I gonna give the album a college try? I don't have to. There's nothing, there's no need. There's no need for me to do that, actually. I mean, maybe out of curiosity, just like not re-listen to the first two tracks, just like, kind of move on. Because to be very fair, one album that I listened to and off of like pressing play didn't really like, but kind of grew on me was Era self-titled because it had that, kind of, I guess, synth in the beginning. And I was like, I'm not gonna like this. And the first time I listened to the whole album, I didn't really like it, but it took some time to grow on me. And I was like, yeah, now it's on the vinyl wall. So is self-titled 2 gonna end up on the vinyl wall? Doubtful. I put a moratorium on buying vinyl, so probably not. But like, I don't know, man. I didn't really expect anything, and I was still let down. you know? It's kind of, well, okay, the only difference between Self-Titled 2 and Everyone Loves You Once You Leave Them is that I was looking forward to Everyone Loves You Once You Leave Them because the singles were really good, but the rest of the album was booty. It wasn't good it wasn't very good at all. Maybe I should give Everyone Loves You Once You Leave Them another try. Maybe I'll feel differently, because I literally haven't listened to it since it came out. So, and I gave it the full listen, so I don't know. Anywho, enough of that. I have another okay, hold on, let me put X's by the ones that I've talked about. Bloop. Yeah, okay. So this is semi-music related in that this is another person that talks about music, not locally, but so a little while back, maybe like last year, there was this YouTube channel that popped up on my, my homepage, my recommended feed, called Brad Taste in Music. And, I watched the videos. I like the videos. I wouldn't consider myself a fan. I was definitely a casual enjoyer. I was not watching any of his live streams. But, he kind of did this, for the folks that don't know, he did this kind of maybe low stakes, not really super thought out. He was to music criticism what critical is to commentary, in that they just don't really give it that much thought. You know? And by critical, I mean Moist Critical, who I did used to be a fan of until he, did not know how to extricate himself from black folks' business, but that was a whole thing. And that happened like a couple years ago. So no need to relitigate, but I'd stopped being a fan of him before that happened, to be fair. Um, so, I'd watch his stuff sort of casually. His videos, some of his compilations were a little bit longer, so I'd watch them while, doing my hair or just like as background noise. Like I said, I wouldn't consider myself like really that big of a fan. And so he kind of dropped off my radar in recent months because he really hasn't been all that active, I guess. He had some things going on and he just wasn't uploading as frequently. And imagine my surprise when all of a sudden up pops this video on my feed, very matter of factly saying, Brad Taste Music arrested for domestic violence. And I'm like, pump the brakes. Like, I lose track of this guy for a few months and he comes back and he's arrested for domestic violence. Like, what on earth happened? And so, I'm not really going to get super into it, but the thing that stuck out to me is that, number one, he admitted to this, which is crazy. What is the crazy aspect of it? I think it was, the very matter-of-factness in the way that he described the situation, even though, looking at the, I guess, recordings and stuff from his ex-partner, it was very intense. It was bad. It was real bad. Like, there's no coming back from this. Like, fully cooked. You are probably also jail? Question mark? I don't know. Maybe. It's a possibility. Just from, the minimal stuff that we have seen from Brad's ex-partner. So it's like, okay, this is strange. He made a video about it, the whole incident where it appears that he's, like literally back in his childhood bedroom or something like that, talking about how, all this made him feel like, oh, it hurt him so much and it betrayed him so much, because what had happened is that there is another YouTube channel that I also sort of watch, but not super frequently because I feel like the videos are very long and the bits go on for far too long. So I can only watch on like 2x speed. But Hive Mind, which is another music-related channel that doesn't really do super in-depth like, music criticism or anything like that, but just kind of, it's a music-related channel talking about music. And he had collaborated with them, a few times. And of course, I'd watch those videos. And, it was fun. But the thing that happened is that, in an effort to, I guess, kind of, I don't want to say expose, because I feel like that has, it implies underhanded tactics. And what Brad's ex-partner did, I do not believe to be underhanded. But she had these recordings of him just going way off. Like, I can tell you that it's bad, but you will not know how bad it was until you listen to it. Like, it was bad. It was really bad. Like, it's bad. Like, there's no coming back from this. And the fact that he downplayed how bad it was also weird. But, it's not all men, but it's always a man, as they say. But anyways, she sent those recordings to the people in Hive Mind. And they obviously cut ties with him. And the fact that he was more upset about the severing of the relationship with Hive Mind versus the fact that he had behaved in such a way where he had the cops called on him and arrested and charged with domestic violence. That was small potatoes. Losing the relationship with Hive Mind, unforgivable. And it's like, how do you say that? How do you say that and expect people to take you seriously? Like, you are fully cooked. And the reason that I put this, because I do sometimes. I don't usually put like internet stuff on the topics list for this podcast because I feel like, I don't know, perhaps my audience isn't the most interested, but I felt like that was so very egregious that it's like, I have to, like, how do you say something like that? And it really does need to be seen to be believed. Obviously, I wouldn't, urge you to support Brad Taste in Music. But there are re-uploads out there, and I saw them on this channel, which I didn't really like. The vibes were off, but you know, they were that person's video was the video that I saw talking about it. So I was like, you know, I watched the 3 that he made, where I've since forgotten the name of the channel, but if you look it up, you could probably find it. Where he, I guess, has been compared to Brad Taste in Music because they look alike or something. I don't know. But what really chapped my butt about that also was that, you know, not only did he be like, ugh, just, how could she do this to me? I feel so betrayed that she would do this. Meanwhile, you're the one who's literally screaming at this woman. Like, demon level screaming at this woman, okay? Like, I feel like that can't be understated. Just how intense that was. Like, it was crazy. Like, actually listening to the recordings is crazy. But, you know, the fact that you did that, and the fact that you got arrested and charged with domestic violence. These aren't just, I mean, there are allegations. This is alleged because, you know, courts and all of that, but charged with domestic violence. No, all of that, small potatoes. How could you break me and hive mind up? What? That was so deeply appalling. But anyways, the channel that I saw talking about this made a very weird comment in their second video about this, where they were like, you know, I don't know why it's being described as domestic violence. You didn't hit her. And of course, this is a man saying this. But, like, just because you don't lay hands on someone does not mean that your actions do not constitute domestic violence. Yelling at someone is a violent act, you know, causing that person to fear for their safety. Using your words is a violent act. So, like, the fact that he got for DV does not surprise me, and I feel like that's warranted. And the fact that, you know, there are not even Brad supporters saying this, but just like, you know, just this random third party saying like, yeah, I yelled at her, but you didn't hit her, so it's not DV. And it's like, oh, if I shake you, is your head gonna rattle around because it's just so empty? Like, come on. Like I said, it's not all men, but it's always a man. So that comment did not, I mean, it was shocking for sure, but also not super surprising. So yeah, that's that. That's that on that. If you yeah, and it's so crazy because like some of his videos I really liked, you know. So there's a time and a place for like not very super serious music criticism, and you know I like the style of humor. I could get into it, but yeah, he's right off now, and for some reason he keeps coming back and telling on himself, like you know, I feel like, honestly, he's just making a better case for his ex-partner because I feel like she can take those words that he has said and prove, like, yeah, this man is malicious, okay? God, I've never seen someone dig themselves farther into a hole than I had in that moment. It was like, you know? Anyway. So, I mean, I might as well wrap it up a little bit here, but I wanted to give a little bit of an update on my goals for the year. If you'll remember, did I talk about it on the podcast? I feel like I should have, but earlier this year, you know, instead of making New Year's resolutions that are like big and grandiose, I had just a few what I felt to be, you know, what do you call them? Achievable goals for the year. And so one of those goals, which I think was the first one that I made, was to be nominated for an Emmy or to win an Emmy. Maybe it was to win. And of course, I didn't get nominated. So I unfortunately failed that one, but I still had a chance. So I could have a chance next year. I might move that one to next year. So winning an Emmy couldn't do that. Moving, I did move. Congratulations to me. I completed that goal. One of them was to watch more movies than I did last year, and I went and checked on Letterboxd because I do log all the movies that I watch on Letterboxd. What is my username? I think it's just Aaron _. Yes. I believe that is it. So if you want to follow me on Letterboxd for whatever reason, you can. And last year, and I'm not counting rewatches, of course, but last year I watched 10 movies, or 11. 10? No, I watched 10 movies. Not all of them were in the theaters, but I watched 10 films. And as of yesterday, I am, I believe, at 9. Let me count. Let me count. So I'm already on track to beat my record for last year. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm at 9. So I recently, and I'm counting streaming as well as theaters, because I feel like as long as it's a new movie, like I feel like that should count. But I saw this like really weird cult movie from 2002 called May. I'm not gonna explain anything about it, but it's on Tubi and it's free, and I think you should watch it. It's a tight hour 30. Oh, bring back the 90-minute movie, please. Bring back the 90-minute movie. It's a nice tight 90 minutes, and it's honestly great. It felt like, as I put in my review, but it felt like one of those movies that you would see like back in the day if you had premium cable. Not everyone had premium cable, but we had premium cable growing up. But if I was like just late at night, which for me would be like 9 o'clock because I'm a child, late at night, and I'm, on Stars or not Cinemax, because after a certain time there would be the softcore porn, so not Cinemax, but Stars or like Encore or like HBO2, just like a very random, premium channel. That is like one of the movies that would come on, you know. It felt like that. It's very reminiscent of that. So for that, it was very warm and familiar for me. And then yesterday, I watched the movie Jackie with Natalie Portman in the days after the assassination of JFK. And I didn't know this, but after I realized this, I was like, oh yes, I can see the vision. Same director as Spencer, which is of course one of I've been talking too long. One of my favorite movies. It's in my top 4 on Letterboxd, not Jackie, but Spencer. So, yeah, that put me at 9. So now I used to keep like a sticky note on my computer, like Windows, not like an actual sticky note, of like all of the upcoming movies that I wanted to see. Which I mean, I don't really do that anymore. I guess I just don't go to the theater as much anymore. I don't know, I felt like there hasn't really been a lot coming out that I've been interested in. However, and it's not this week that's coming out, it's next week. But what do you call it? There's a new Spike Lee joint dropping. I forgot what it's called. Day and night, top to bottom. Hold on. It's something and something. Highest to lowest, top to bottom. Oh my god, highest to lowest with Denzel Washington, and that comes out on the 22nd. Wait, that says the 15th. What am I talking about? That is this week. Where did I see that it came out on the 22nd? So never mind, it is this week, and I am going to see it this. Wait, no, it's not. Wait, yes, it is. The 15th is this week. Oh my god. Okay. It's late. What can I say? It's late. So yeah, I'm going to go see that one in the theater. It is a remake of a Kurosawa film, which one is it? In my directing class that I took my final semester of college, High and Low, that is the Kurosawa film. As part of our directing class, we were supposed to watch all these movies by all these directors, and I was like, I did not have the time. I don't know why. I wasn't doing anything, but I just felt like I didn't have the time. Also, I've noticed that the older that I've gotten, the less adventurous I've become, which is really unfortunate. Usually with my media, like as a kid, I was just way more open to anything. I think it's because, now that I am an adult and I work and I have responsibilities, I know that things take time, and, I am sort of less willing to spend time on something that I don't know that I'm gonna like, which I feel like I gotta get away from that, there I shouldn't really be doing that, especially when it comes to movies, because I feel like, if usually when I go out on a limb, I watch movies that I know nothing about and I don't know whether or not I'm really gonna like it. Even if I don't end up liking the movie, I still feel like I come away with something, you know? Even with Eddington, you know, I was gonna say I was expecting not to like it, but that's not necessarily true. And, there were enjoyable aspects to the movie, but I feel like overall I did like. I'm not relitigating this. I don't want to get COVID again. Ari Aster, please don't give me COVID again because I talk badly about your movie. I'm sorry. Okay, there were enjoyable parts. Please let me live. Okay. Ooh, anyways, yeah, I feel like all that to say, I have a television. I have access to so much media on streaming, because I am mooching off of my parents and have all of these streaming services because they pay for cable. I feel like I should be more adventurous, because I feel like now, especially, my YouTube algorithm is kind of cooked. Like, I have just not been watching the things that I want to watch, and now I'm getting recommended a bunch of stuff that I don't really like. And I feel like I've been trying to like fix my algorithm like brick by brick, but it's slow going. So I feel like there's less YouTube that I want to watch, and there's probably a lot more movies out there that I want to watch. A lot more things that are a tight hour 30. So I also recently rewatched Nope. I forgot just how good that movie is. Holy cow. Whew. In my opinion, the best Jordan Peele written and directed movie. Get Out was cool. Us, forgettable, not even gonna lie. Did not really enjoy Us that much. But Nope, ugh, it's supposed to be scary and horrifying, but I was just grinning the entire time, just fascinated by Jean Jacket as like a existential threat and the whole mechanism of it all. Ugh, I loved it so much. Because last time I saw it was when it came out in IMAX. So, yeah. What a good movie. Ugh. There's some movies that, make me excited that I chose filmmaking as my, preferred um plan in life, my career goal. I don't know why it took me so long to get to that. Even though literally last episode I was talking about how, uncertain my career future feels. I feel like, I just got to watch some good movies to get me excited about the whole movie making thing again, and maybe I'll be fixed, maybe not. I don't know. So yeah. Anyway, that'll be enough for this episode. It's late, and also it's late. I mean, it's not that late. It's like 8:32. It's not that late, but I've been talking for long enough, I do believe. So this has been the 51st episode of the Running My Mouth podcast. I've been your host, Aaron. Thank you for allowing me to run my mouth. Follow me on Instagram, because if you're not following me on Instagram, you're only getting half the story. And that'll be it for me. I'm so proud of myself. My house is clean. I have food for the week. What else did I say? I have groceries. Like, all I need to do is fold my clothes. And once I do that, the week is gonna be so easy for me. I'm envisioning it. I am speaking it into existence. The week is going to be easy for me. The week is going to be easy for me. Okay, time for me to go.